The essence of the dance, for example, in Egypt, in Cairo, first of all, the dancer is considered an artist and not necessarily just an entertainer, someone that it's going to be put on stage. What happens here in LA, a belly dancer could be called for a theme party and she's performing next to a fire dancer or a clown or another form of entertainer. In Egypt, that would be considered completely out of context. In Egypt, for example, or in the Lebanese clubs, in that kind of context, the dancer is a performer that will have to have a stage. She would have to have an orchestra of about 30 musicians, very trained musicians, and she has to know her music very well. She has to be able to understand the music, she has to be able to understand the lyrics and interpret the music very carefully, and more than anything, she has to be very expressive. There has to be a lot of emotion because it's the music is very poetic and it has a lot of meaning to the culture. So people will cry when they see the belly dancer interpreting their music and their lyrics, and so it's an amazing experience. It becomes much more artistic and much more emotional, as opposed to here in the United States or in LA. It's just, like I said, it could just be form of entertainment where, you know, the dancer comes out and she has a snake around her body. Like I said, nothing wrong with it, but there's no snakes where the dance comes from, or fire or anything like that, no. So it's just the, you know, the context different. The way that the dance form has evolved here is very different. Yes, I did have a breakthrough after I came back, and I was actually thinking of quitting. Because I felt like I was doing it all wrong. I was like, what am I doing? I'm not doing the dance form in the way it is, and it's, you know, the essence of the dance form. Am I misrepresenting it to an audience that it's not really seeing it what it is for what it is? And it took some conversations with some of my mentors and my teachers, and they said, well, it is what it is. If you still love the dance form, you should stay with it and continue to dance with it. But you could also, you know, if you feel that you gotta honor that tradition of the dance form, then why don't you shift your dance form into something more traditional and something that speaks through that voice of the dance form, which I did. I became much more educated about the music. My choice of music and dance style changed a little bit, which actually makes sense because my company and I get hired a lot for traditional Arabic style, you know, events for weddings and parties where people see our videos and they, oh, these girls remind us a lot of what we used to see or what we used to hear when we were growing up in Egypt. They know the traditions, they know the dancing, they know the costuming. So this is what I want to bring to my 25-year-old that is getting married and who's of Egyptian descent but never been to Egypt, and he doesn't really understand what it is. So I want to give that to my son as a present and give that tradition back. Unfortunately, as beautiful as the dance form it is, it's very, I think it's misunderstood. It's not, people don't see it. We have a lot, dancers, we have a lot of difficulties sometimes convincing some of our audience or just the general public that this is an art form, that this is a dance that requires a lot of training, it requires a lot of studying, it requires going to other countries of origin and learning about it and talking to people. It requires a lot of workshops, it requires a lot of investment in your costumes and your props and, you know, and taking classes. So it is a dance form that it's that requires all that, but it's not given its value, I think, not always, unfortunately. I think people sometimes have the misconception that, oh, okay, give me a belly dancer. I don't care if she's wearing a Halloween costume. As long as she shakes around and she has some fun music, that's enough. So that's some of the misconceptions that we get. And I would sometimes get upset when I would get a client over the phone and mention, oh, I was thinking about a stripper, but I'm just gonna go with a belly dancer. So I'll be like, but you know, as a professional, you have to also take the time to educate the person and tell them, well, you know, belly dancing actually has nothing to do with stripping, and it's actually a dance form that requires a lot of training, a lot of commitment. And so, you know, this is what I can offer you, and it would be a great experience for your guests, for your audience. But if you really want something closer to the other form of entertainment, then you might want to go with that form of entertainment, because that's not the kind of entertainment that we offer. I was a very creative girl when I used to go into my own little world and create all kinds of fantasies about, I was a fashion designer, I was a model, I was a singer, I was a dancer, and to the point where I'd just get lost for hours somewhere in a room, and I would just get all kinds of stuff around to create my settings, you know, my fashion shows and my concerts, and to the point where my parents would forget about me for hours, and then they'll eventually find me in a room. Of course, it was a huge mess, but you know, it was okay. I would put it back. So I was a very, you know, I was that kind of girl as I was growing up. Then when I went to school, I actually became a teacher for a while, and I was a teacher. I was a history teacher. I only did that for 2 years after I graduated from college, because I wasn't happy, and something inside of me just kept saying, you need to go back to belly dancing, you need to go back up belly dancing. So I just eventually I left my job and I became a full-time dancer. But I knew that there was always a very creative side of me, and I think that not until I started to do this full-time did I realize, oh, now I'm putting a lot of my creative effort and my creative energy into this. And I think that it worked. It's always a work in progress. You know, being a dancer, it's always a work in progress. The minute I think, if I ever tell myself, oh, you're done, this is, you know, you're at the end of it, or you become everything that you could possibly become, I think it will be time for me to quit, because there's, you know, there's no limits to this. The more you learn, the more you realize that you need to know more. That's why when I was here in LA and dancing for a while, I thought that's what it was. And then I go to Egypt and I realize, oh, it's, you know, I've been exposed to something that is completely different. I mean, very related to what I'm doing, but it's, you know, I learned so much about it that I was like, oh, there is much more to it than what I thought. Well, I do take classes regularly. I also work a lot at home on technique and drills. For example, I've been working on a specific technique that obviously it is part of the dance form, but it obviously it's something that I hadn't done before, and that could take me, you know, 6 months to become capable at. I don't want to say even master it. I think that might take me years. But sometimes I invest 2 hours a day just on working on something new, something different. And it could be with technique, it could be with music, or it could be with choreographing a piece that I think would be innovative and challenging and, you know, exciting at the same time. So those are some of the stuff that, you know, I constantly work on. And besides the business part of it, because I'm also on the phone a lot, I'm also answering emails, getting contracts signed, talking to clients, trying to design a show for an event or for a client. That takes, I would say, 40% of my time. And but the other time that I'm able to practice, I actually, you know, I work on that a lot. And I also have to do other dance forms. I have to do ballet, yoga, go to the gym, because it is a dance form that expects you to be in good shape, or, you know, in a healthy, just to be healthy. And so you also have to invest time on that.